Just quieten down, baby.
Per capita export value.
Ivory! Minister, are you embarrassed by your behavior today?
There's a lot of bleeding hearts around.
Do you have the fortitude or the gonads to stand up and come across here and say that to me, you son of a bitch?
Just watch me.
He certainly went too far, Mr. Speaker, when I saw him stick his tongue out.
Contemptuous disregard.
More than a slab of bacon talking here.
The disappointment you also feel is my responsibility.
I lost my temper.
What is the nature of your thoughts?
The word was F-A-R-T.
Come one, come all. Welcome to another exciting and tantalizing episode of Canadian Politics is Boring. I'm your host, Jesse Harley, and with me is the inscrutable, the smelly, the tantalizing, I used tantalizing already, Reese Waters. Reese, everyone say hello, applaud, yay, woo, hello, Reese, hey, ha, ha, hey, ooh, ooh.
Hi. Sorry. I just can't do that kind of energy, but you did it really well, so thank you. I think you have enough energy for both of us.
That's sad. Isn't that sad? That's a little sad.
Why is that sad?
I don't know, like, you know, you're So what's new with you? How are you? How have you been?
What have I been doing? I'm tired. I didn't have very good. I've actually got a bad back. I'm going to chiropractor for the first time in my life.
Oh, that'll be interesting.
So I'm hoping they'll just literally just kick, they'll lie on the floor on the front, and then they'll just jump on me and just punch me in the back for a while, and then I'll just be, I feel loads better. Thank you.
That's
I watched
exactly
some YouTube
how it
videos
works.
of them doing
it.
So I watched some YouTube videos, and I'm worried they're going to break my neck.
They do like cracking necks, alarmingly too. Like, and so alarmingly, they take videos and show the world like, isn't that terrifying? Come have a session with me. It's weird. It's bad advertising. They should not be advertising that.
The weird thing I find about it is that everybody says, like, everyone I've ever met who's been said it's life-changing, they're amazing, they're
so
brilliant.
I went for months. I went for like a year because I was working at iStock Photo, and I had these benefits because they were just throwing benefits at us. It was kind of crazy. And one of them was like, yeah, just have free acupuncture, free chiro, free whatever you want. I'm like, okay, I'll take all of that. And I went for chiropractor because like I had a bad back and bad knee, and it didn't help at all. I just kept going because it was free. It was something to do.
You got on well with them. So,
hey Paul, hey Jesse, how you doing? Not bad. Want to punch me in the back for 20 minutes? Sure thing. Lie in the back. Yeah. So that's.
I listened to a great podcast, Behind the Bastards with Robert Evans. It's a show I love, and he did one about the person who invented the whole industry and came up with the techniques, and they were like super dodgy, and it's always made me go, nah, it's quackery, there's nothing to it. But then everyone I know and people whose judgment I really value are all like, no, you need to go. So I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna go.
Oh, not like you need to go as in leave the room out of my sight, like pointed a finger behind you and like you need to leave.
Well, they do that, but they shout go to the chiropractor as they walk out. And before we get into the meat of this episode, the tight meat, you may have noticed that we are now a member of the Acast family. So, woohoo! That doesn't really mean anything to anyone apart from us. So.
No, it really doesn't. No, that's fine. We just thought we'd mention, because the frequency may be gone from our logo, and now Acast is on. And there has been no hard feelings from anybody. We had a wonderful time with frequency. They're fantastic.
They were amazing.
They're amazing. We both amicably parted ways, and now we've joined with the Acast family, and we're very excited to join Acast.
It's great
to see what
they have people working in LA, and everything is great. It's like, oh, I'm just going to send an email to someone in LA. You know?
I'm like, they know people in LA, and we start giggling to ourselves like schoolgirls.
We should pop down and visit our co-workers in Acast in LA. Just hang out at their offices until we get kicked out.
I would love that. I would 100% do that.
Just uncomfortably hang out. So what are you guys doing? We're trying to work. What are you doing? I'm here to feel good about myself.
Yeah, there you go.
Exactly.
It's taking
anyway.
annoying selfies. So that's
Anyway.
it. Just a bit of admin, just to let you know what's going on behind the scenes in case you were curious.
Anyway, do you want to learn about some things and some stuff?
Yeah, what do you got for us today? I mean, I'm not really in a learning mood, I guess. I kind of just,
It's fine.
I just want to
Okay. Well, I can just talk at
I
you.
feel like you
It's
kind of
fine.
do that anyway. But like, yeah, let's learn some shit. That was a segment on my own show.
So-
I had a segment called Let's
Let's
learn some shit. Yeah, I had a musical intro and everything.
This week, coyote shit.
Exists, and that's the end of the segment right there.
There we go.
Can you do me a favor?
This
Just a
one's called,
callback to my old podcast. What a glory!
What a beautiful morning.
Oh, what a glorious morning! But thank you.
What a
you.
glorious
You're gonna send a
morning,
whole bunch of people to a podcast that doesn't exist. Oh, what a glorious morning! I had musical interludes for each segment. I had. Anyways, can you do me a favor just to tickle my nostalgic bulb in my brain? I'm going to assume that's a little bulb.
I don't want to go anywhere near your nostalgic
well,
bulb, let alone tickle
just
it.
try it once and see how you like it. And
I'll walk towards it with my back turned.
okay, that's a good start. We'll start there. Yeah. And then if you like it, maybe next time you can hold my bulb's hand. And
I don't like where this is going.
It's just one small step at a time here, Reese. That's all. There's nothing.
We're getting edging closer to the gutter.
Edging. Yes, that's. I mean,
Not edging your nostalgic bulbs. Anyway, I'm going to talk about.
I was just gonna say, like, can we? For
I'm
my
gonna talk
sake,
about-
I haven't finished what I'm saying.
No,
That's the whole reason.
I don't want to know where it's going. It's fine. This is a family show. It's not, but how would you like to learn about 100 years of anti-vaxxers?
Oh,
And
I feel like this is gonna piss me off.
No. Spoiler alert.
Not you, but like the topic. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, no. But spoiler alert. Anti-vaxxers were smarter 100 years ago than they are now. That's the conclusion I've come to.
Okay, well, with that,
if you leave
that little nugget of information, and if that's true according to you, then I'm color me intrigued. Color my bulb, my intrigued bulb, my intrigueness, my bulb of intrigueness, which is dangling right next to my nostalgic bulb. It's slowly warming up, and
you should go and see the doctor. I think you've got one too many bulbs.
Please continue.
Yeah.
Before it shrinks.
So this is a great article written by Jamie Bradburn, which was published like 2 years ago, and it was called "Stop the Slaughter of the Innocents: Meet the Anti-Vaxxers of 1919." So
this is in Canada, I'm assuming.
This is in Canada. This is in Toronto primarily. So during like the 19th century, when they first introduced vaccination, there was all these horrible diseases just randomly killing people all the time. But also, there was a lot of safety concerns about vaccination because they had poor aftercare, dirty needles. It was like a new science at a time when people didn't fully understand how to give vaccinations in a clean, safe way all the time.
What? This was 1919?
1990, and then at the beginning of beginning of the late 19th century going into the 20th century. So.
Now you might cover this, but I've actually I learned a little bit about this a while back. A little bit. I don't know the history of vaccination, but I do know that before vaccination, as a process of introducing a little bit of the virus into your system, so that you can how vaccines work. That before vaccines, as like a needle, as a process, as a medical instrument, we kind of understood that. If people hung out with sick people or touched a little bit of their blood or germs or ingested it in some small, lick their gross ass wounds, and they survived, that they wouldn't get sick with that same virus they were exposed to again. And people kind of figured this out. They didn't know the direct science behind it, but they did clue in. They're like, oh, if they have just a little bit of whatever they're exposed to and they can kind of get through the symptoms, they're fine or whatever. So people kind of understood the process of, of why vaccines work before vaccines came onto the scene, like long before. So
Yeah,
it wasn't brand new, is what I'm saying.
no, it was new as like a. Okay, so I guess what changed was that the governments were starting to bring vaccination in more widely as their understanding of it was becoming more scientific.
Right.
So
yeah.
The Anti-Vaccination League was formed in 1900, and they successfully stopped a law.
Hold on, so I thought you were saying this was taking place in 1919.
We'll get to 1919.
Okay.
We're going back to the turn of the 20th century.
So there was a vaccine that was being promoted in the turn of the 19th century, the 20th century?
There were vaccines around for lots of the diseases that were around. They were playing with them and testing them out. But because some people were going, hey, get vaccinated, you'd be safe from a disease, and then they would die because they used dirty needles.
Right.
The Anti-Vaccination League was there to stop governments from forcing people to have vaccinations because they were like, hey, this isn't safe. And this was at a time where it genuinely wasn't necessarily safe just because they didn't
fully understand germs.
No, exactly. And they were just using the same needle over and over again and just, spitting on it and polishing on it.
Jesus.
I imagine. So the Anti-Vaccination League actually managed to get Toronto City Council to drop a bylaw that mandated that school children had to be vaccinated, for instance. So then getting closer to 1919, like a lot of improvements had happened. They'd reduced side effects. They'd started washing their hands, I hope, and everything else. So it became less about it actually being a risky thing and more about like liberty and freedom and like making it a choice. So often what you found was it was working class families and lower income people who were really struggling from recovering from a vaccination. The side effects you get afterwards. You're going to need a couple of days off work. Back then, you didn't get sick leave, so
right.
There was a lot of support saying, "Well, you're telling me I need to get this done, but I can't take the time off work and everything else." So,
it sounds like growing pains, honestly.
It was a new thing, and people, right. They needed to legislate to allow people to have sick leave for them to, if they wanted to take public health seriously. So, and at this time, so there was a lot of disease going around, and smallpox in particular was one of the big issues and one of the main diseases they were trying to vaccinate against.
Mm-hmm.
And after World War II, obviously you had Spanish flu. There was a ton of stuff going around that. Made people aware. A lot, people were losing loved ones all the time. So, like those diseases killing people, much like COVID is now, was like in people's lives in a big way. It wasn't like some distant thing. And a mild strain of smallpox hit Toronto in November 1919. Do you know much about smallpox? It's horrible.
No, and I don't care to.
So
it's just. Don't want to know.
So it's been around it caused millions of deaths. It was around for about 3,000 years. And what happens is your body eventually becomes covered in sores. And those sores even spread to the inside of your mouth. So it was horrible.
That is horrible.
The chief medical officer for Toronto, a man named Charles Hastings, ordered a general vaccination, which would include the mass inoculation of school children. And they ordered all civil servants to receive the shots too. And they knew it would be unpopular, but they believed that the welfare of the masses outweighed personal rights.
Now, were people dying from this? Not the vaccine,
no,
but the disease.
But I think at this point, the strain was just starting, and they saw an opportunity to use the smallpox vaccine.
No, but I mean, did people die from smallpox, or is it just a horrifying?
Oh yeah, it was horrible.
Oh wow! So at this point, this is 1919. You're saying?
Yeah.
So at this point, had they kind of ironed out the problems with like uncleanliness with like how to make vaccines more sanitary and
it was 20 years after that league was formed, and things were a lot better.
Okay.
Like they understood, that you'd had World War I, you'd had like people like Florence Nightingale, discover that clean environments increased survival rates for people in hospital, and it, they were.
How long ago was that?
When did she find that out? I think that was the Crimean War.
Oh, that's 1854, I believe. Literally edited a video about the Crimean War yesterday.
What? Crimean War.
That's crazy. That's nuts. How shit like that happens.
Yeah. What happened was a homeopath called Henry Becker.
1853. I was so close.
That was good. That was good. Look at you retaining information.
I know,
about history.
right?
Like a big boy. So
I'm a big boy.
Yeah, exactly. So homeopath Henry Becker.
Isn't that fucking weird how that happens? Like, seriously, that happens all the time where you learn something new. You're like, I wonder what that is. And then suddenly other people just start talking about it out of the fucking blue. I have never once in my life heard of the Crimean War. Never. Yesterday I hear of it for the first time. Now you're talking about it. Like, isn't that fucking weird? It happens all the time. All the time.
I'm glad the universe connected for you.
Well, I mean, it's another example of why we might be living in a simulation, but let's go there again.
Anyway, back to homeopath Henry Becker, the anti-vax person from Toronto. He started claiming that they were sourcing the virus from human corpses.
Is that true?
No, it was just a rumor they'd started, I believe. And a councillor called Sam McBride then declared he'd rather pay a fine than be vaccinated. And this is the point where I genuinely believe that anti-vaxxers were smarter back then. So their argument was, I shouldn't have to get vaccinated if I don't want to. How about, instead of getting vaccinated, we have isolation, quarantine, and social distancing? That was their suggestion.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
These are the anti-vaxxers coming up with this.
Yeah, saying, hey, let's just follow these medical guidelines and then we don't have to get vaccinated. As opposed to the anti-vaxxers
There's some
today,
serious fucking irony here.
Yeah, who don't want to get vaccinated and they don't want to wear a mask or isolate or distance. The anti-vaxxers 100 years ago, because those diseases were killing lots of people, understood that they had to do something, or were suggesting things. And the anti-vaxxers today are just like, no, I just want to go to McDonald's and be me. Somehow they've got stupider.
That's McDonald's new slogan. Just be you. You can be you at McDonald's.
I'm loving me. Ba 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 ba.
Want to dance naked on a table? You can at McDonald's. Want to brush your teeth with tar and gravel? You sure can at McDonald's.
Want to walk through the drive-thru?
I mean, that's just dangerous, but...
Anyway, so how do you feel about
that? Well, it kind of confirms the suspicions that we're getting dumber. So there's a divide. There always has been a divide between the extremely smart and the extremely stupid. It's just true. Like, people make these fucking magical devices in our pockets that we call phones, that we, connect with the rest of the world and almost all of human knowledge with instantaneously, but we don't have a single fucking clue how it works. Other people are making those for us. The divide, that doesn't make us ridiculously stupid, but there is a divide, I've always said, between the ridiculously smart and the ridiculously stupid. And I'm starting to question, because like the ridiculously smart people, if you compare them to like ridiculously smart people from a while back, they seem to be getting a little bit smarter. I'm wondering if it's the same for the other side of the fence.
I think it's just the spectrum is growing.
Yeah,
both ends of the spectrum are getting further apart.
Yeah. It's not just in how far apart they are, but like how smart and how stupid they are too. So
it just blows my mind. They were like, yes, this is bad. Nobody wants smallpox. This is going to hurt a lot of people, but I don't want to get vaccinated. So let's follow these very sensible steps instead, rather than going, I don't want my life to change at all.
Well,
and I don't care
were these
who
people
dies.
Also saying like smallpox didn't exist, or it was created by the government? Or
no, they weren't.
The government's trying to take their freedom away while screaming freedom, like wherever they were just into a megaphone because they didn't have phones or instruments.
They just had a history of going, I know people who died from having a vaccine because the needle was dirty, or I know somebody who lost their job because they needed the day off work and they weren't supposed to. They weren't necessarily as irrational, but like social media has been responsible for spreading a lot of this misinformation.
Oh yeah, no, it's
the press at the time in Toronto did exactly the same thing.
What do you mean?
So the Henry Becker, who was the homeopath, who claimed it was coming from corpses, and Sam McBride, the council elected official who sided with the anti-vax.
Hold on. So this what's his name again? The homeopath?
Henry Becker.
Henry Becker claimed that smallpox came from corpses?
No, that the vaccine was coming from corpses.
Well, even if that was true, so what?
I know. I eat dead people all the time.
But he was just saying that to stir up shit.
Yeah, he was. And then Sam McBride, the elected official, believed him. And then McBride was speaking to newspapers, and he was saying things like, there are commercial travelers in Toronto who are afraid to leave their homes for fear their children would be forcibly taken and mutilated in their absence, he told the Daily Star. And then also newspaper letters pages were filled with unsubstantiated claims from anti-vaxxers saying that the shots stopped smallpox but spread syphilis. And eventually, 95% of the city opposed compulsory immunization. And one 93. Of the writers...
Wow.
95%, sorry,
oh, wow.
One poll said. Obviously, it's a poll, so it depends who they asked, but that was a poll that was taken. One writer suggests that unwrapped bread sold from dirty wagons was a greater menace than smallpox. Ever bought unwrapped bread from a dirty wagon?
You know I have.
Fresh bread. Fresh unwrapped bread from a dirty wagon. Come try this olive bread. The croissants are wonderful. And then there was the whole thing about, not vaccine passports, but stopping unvaccinated kids from going to to school, those kind of things. But just to give you context, the coronavirus kills 0.5% of people it infects, whereas smallpox had a death rate of 30%.
Jesus Christ. You had a 30% chance of dying if you got it.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So a rash starts with small red spots on the tongue and in the mouth. The spots change into sores that break open and spread large amounts of virus into the mouth and throat.
Yeah, thank you for stopping.
So 3 out of 10 people.
I don't want to know.
And also, smallpox survivors had permanent scars kind of over most of their body and their face. Some went blind. And eventually, smallpox was eradicated by, I think it was the 70s. And the last natural outbreak was in 1949. But because of vaccination, it was, the vaccine program was successful. They eradicated an entire disease that had plagued people for centuries. So it just, they were doing the right thing. But there was still, you had the public opinion was against mass vaccination, and also a lot of influential people were against it as well. So they had lots of public meetings were held all the time, and they were calling compulsory vaccination tyrannical and an old scientific absurdity of using disease to fight disease, things like that they were saying. And also they were saying that the doctors were financially profiting from vaccinations, and that's why you shouldn't get one.
Wow. Yeah, there we go. That sounds familiar.
Yeah. And they had protests, anti-vax protests. 1,200 people turned up at Massey Hall.
One third of them died.
Yeah. 1/3 of them, they all went home. They all felt curiously ill, and no one could work out why.
Mysterious illness.
They said things like, you may cripple your children for life, inflict upon them some loathsome and incurable disease, or even accomplish their death in a short time.
Well, I mean, I can't say I'm surprised, really. But it doesn't sound like a lot of them were like, again, it just sounds like, the blind leading the blind. Like more just this sounds like a fun club to be in. I like being angry.
Yeah.
As opposed, I don't know how many people were actually touting, hey, let's just stay home and wear masks and socially distance and just quarantine ourselves until this is over. It doesn't sound like most of them were on the side of science as well. Hey, this is new technology and I get where you're coming from, but can we take this slow and make our own decisions? It doesn't sound like, hey, let's study the statistics of how this has worked out in the past, et cetera, et cetera. Let's talk some BB doll. It doesn't sound like that at all. It sounds like most of them are like a lot of them today.
Yeah,
they like screaming in a club with other people who like screaming.
But what happened was the chief medical officer, Hastings, his argument was to point out how ignorant they all were to their faces and to say, hey, if you don't want to get vaccinated, you're just ignorant, you're just stupid. And by taking that kind of approach, he just angered more people. And in the end, most of the city council turned against compulsory vaccination.
Well,
so the whole angle of going, come on, you're just too stupid to understand it, just do it, didn't work then or now. I
understand how it didn't work. Like, okay, so COVID versus smallpox, it's huge, massive difference. For one thing, the whole, COVID argument amongst, I'm sure, a lot of anti-maskers and anti-vaxxers is like, it's only a 0.5% kill rate or whatever. It's not about you. It's about the people you could give it to, the elderly, the immunocompromised, the people who could get sick and die from it, that they could get it from you, trying to go and live your best fucking life. That's the issue. I mean, they should have nicknamed COVID-19, instead of COVID-19, they should have nicknamed it like the grandparent killer, right? Because then people would think twice. It's not about me dying. It's about possibly me giving this to my grandparents or someone else's grandparents. Like that's anyway. But you're right. Yeah, the survivability rate is quite high for COVID-19. So a lot of people could just
ironically
ignore it. Yeah, go ahead. What?
This dark time we live in, if you brand it as, hey, it's going to kill your grandparents, a lot of people would go, yay, I'll finally be able to have a house.
Jesus. Yeah. No, you're not wrong. There will be some assholes out there who take advantage of that as well. I'm not saying
I'm going to get on the ladder.
I'm going to get on the ladder. What?
Property ladder.
I've never heard of that term. What's a property ladder?
When you're young, you buy in the old days, when you were young, you'd buy a cheap house and then you'd sell it, like maybe fix it up and make some more money. And then you buy a slightly larger house and then you'd fix it up and the prices might go up. And then you buy another house. And that's the ladder.
I'm reading it on Wikipedia right this second. I've never heard of this.
And then by the time you're maybe 50 or 60,
I understand the process.
You've got a big house and then you sell it and you go somewhere smaller, and the circle of life.
I understand the process. I've learned about it. I almost got into it. I just never heard the term ever until the second. That's interesting. Anyway, to finish what I was saying, to close out what I was saying, back then, how dare you? Back then, you couldn't say it's like the flu. It's just like getting a bad cold or a bad flu. You couldn't, because like 1 out of 3 fucking people were dying from it. Like how
of horrible sores,
and then
virus, blah,
and then they die, and then they would die. Like how so? Like these people who couldn't make these grandiose claims that it wasn't what it seemed, or that it wasn't as bad as it was made out to be, or anything, because people were straight up fucking dying.
But they wouldn't.
Hold on. But here's my question: how did they keep up the argument that everything's okay?
They didn't. That's my point. They were smarter than that. They didn't say ignore it, nothing's happening. They said let's socially distance. Let's have isolation.
See, I thought you were saying like that was a small amount of people in the early 1900s, but now in 1919, when smallpox was in Toronto, this different group.
This was the people leading this movement in Toronto at this time. They were saying let's just follow some health guidelines rather than get vaccinated.
Oh, okay.
They weren't saying it didn't exist.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. It's just you're thinking about people today who are saying, I don't want to get vaccinated and I don't want to follow health guidelines. And it doesn't exist, by the way. Right. And Bill Gates is making money off the vaccination and tracking me and this. And Donald Trump is against it, or is he? Or did he take credit for it? I don't know.
Whatever he says, though, has to be true.
Yeah. I don't want to think about that too much.
Even if it's different from what he said yesterday. This is now true.
It breaks the spell, so I'm not going to dwell on that because I'm shouting now and I'm sweating and I've just met you 30 seconds ago in the lineup for Tim Hortons.
McDonald's.
So McDonald's. I'm just trying to be myself in McDonald's. So
free megaphone with small small cheeseburger purchase.
Free kids megaphone. Yeah. So by the end of
a megaphone with every kid's meal.
Yeah.
Can you imagine the best toy you give any child?
What did you get? I got a tiny megaphone. What did you get? A tiny fuck Trudeau flag. Anyway, so by the end of November, there was 1,600 cases of smallpox, and 1,300 of those were in Toronto. And the city council was deadlocked. They weren't going to enforce vaccination more widely. And it got to the point where America closed the border because they were worried about smallpox crossing over from Canada. So unless you had proof of immunization, Canadians couldn't enter the USA at the time.
So I don't know, man. Like, again, the whole logistics thing of we don't want to take this vaccine, instead we'll quarantine ourselves. It's more sound than what anti-vaxxers are doing today. But if I lived back then and smallpox was rampant in my city and 1/3 of the people, 2/3 of them were just covered in horrifying boils, and then 1/3 of them died, and they came to me and they're like, Jesse, we can give you a vaccine, but in order to get the vaccine, you have to take a shot in the arm with this needle, and then you have to have this very large husky boxer over here punch your testicles back up into its cavity into your wastal region, okay, and do that like 3 times in a row. I'd be like, where do I sign up? Like, this isn't just, there's no comparison to like dying from boils, like just, and there are people out there who are like, I'll chance it. Are you fucking nuts? No, anyway,
exactly.
That's my rant.
And also, so what happened was there were nearly 3,000 cases of smallpox in the end, but luckily it was mild and there were only 11 deaths reported in Toronto. So
it's not 1/3.
No, it's not. But in the past, it had been 1/3 with smallpox outbreaks. So, but the part of the thing that
I'm going to take back everything I just said about having a
no. But listen to this. Listen to this. So what happened?
Like out of 3,000 people, 11 people died. All right, I'm
not. No. So
I'll nix the boxer out of my story.
But roughly half of the city had been vaccinated voluntarily.
Were they still getting it, just not dying?
Yeah. So even though
were they
were
still getting smallpox, just not dying from it?
Yeah. So even though that the council wouldn't allow compulsory vaccination and they couldn't force it, nearly half the population of Toronto had gone to get vaccinated totally voluntarily without being forced to.
Wow.
So I think part of the reason that the smallpox cases wasn't as substantial was because they'd actually followed the health advice, even though they didn't necessarily need to be led into doing it. Because the population of Toronto at the time was around 500,000 and 200,000 people had been vaccinated.
Wow. Oh, well, that's encouraging.
So again, people were smarter. And there's a great poem that was published in the Globe.
Are you going to read my poem, Reese?
I am. Vaccination is vexation.
Hold on, wait. Hold on. Can you set the tone?
Just
set the mood for me. Can you play some music?
No, I don't. I can do it in post.
Okay.
Vaccination.
No.
You
gotta go slowly, man. Do some more.
Okay.
Yeah.
Vaccination is vexation. Smallpox is much worse. The former leads to irritation, the latter to the hearse. There you go.
Oh, it was lovely. It wasn't lovely. It was, but
what a nice poem.
What a nice poem. I want a nice poem.
And I wanted to add this at the end. So to kind of explain what went wrong in terms of people's understanding of vaccination since then is, and this was Catherine Arnott in a 1992 essay for the Canadian Bulletin of Medical History. Great bulletin. You should read it. And she basically said, it might be that the pro-vaccine forces are victims of their own success. By keeping contagious diseases under control through immunization schemes, they reduce the public perception of continued vigilance against diseases. So what they're saying is that by vaccines being so successful 100 years ago, and people like 30% of your loved ones not dying around you on a day-to-day basis, we've become spoilt and unable to process the risk of disease. That's the end of the story.
Wow. A little surprising, but always nice to wake up and have a coffee and have my friend call me up and tell me all about the horrors of a disease gone by.
Yeah, and also that people have got more stupid because science did too good a job. And maybe if we did have, it's like I'm not afraid of dinosaurs, but if there were dinosaurs still around, I think I'd be afraid of them.
That's a good analogy. Reese.
So what's the call to action? Get vaccinated against smallpox?
I feel like that's unnecessary at this point, Reese. That's a good call. Good luck.
Or if you're reusing a needle, spit and wipe. That's what they say.
Jesus Christ. The old slogan underneath vaccinations.
Yeah. Don't forget, spit and wipe. And together we can stop smallpox for good.
That's a really good old-timey voice. No, I have a call
This
to
is
action.
Jesse. He's found a needle on the floor. Stop, Jesse. It may be dirty. Germs on that hypodermic needle may enter your bloodstream and kill you. That's right, Jesse. Put it in your pocket. There. Now you found a quiet spot. Are you hydrated? Good. Then just remember these 2 steps. Spit and wipe. Did you do it? Very good. So now you may inject yourself with opium or other stimulants with a clean needle, knowing that you will not die of disease, only an overdose. This message is brought to you by the Health Board of Ontario.
Where did that come? That was amazing. That was amazing.
I love improvising old timey PSAs. They're great.
That was fantastic. Oh my God. Okay, so call to action for all of those who are inclined. Send us a haiku on vaccines, and you can send them to us at speakpipe.com/Canadian politics is boring. And if we our favorite, we'll pick our favorite. And you will win a personalized video of me and or Reese saying whatever the fuck you want us to say, as long as it's not horribly, horribly racist. There you go.
Sexual.
Oh, well, I mean.
Well, Jesse can do the sexual.
There you go. Reese will leave a little link in the show notes, wherever you're in Spotify or Apple Podcasts, wherever you're listening. So you can just kind of bring out your phone and click it with your thumb and you're ready to record. It's that quick. I mean, you have to think.
What's that, Jesse?
You have to think of a fucking haiku first, but like.
I know. What's that, Jesse? You're going to vote for Justin Trudeau? Stop. Think. Everybody knows he eats babies.
Spit and wipe. No, that's for a different thing.
If you're going to vote for Trudeau, spit and wipe.
What is this coming from? What's the?
I don't know. We're just having fun.
Just
Anyway.
making another PSA, an old-timey PSA.
Old-timey PSA about the dangers of voting for Trudeau.
Because he eats babies.
Millions of people die from Trudeau every year. You may not know it, but he is a secret communist. That's what people think.
Oh, Reese, I love your old. I mean, I asked you to do a Canadian accent before, and it's the funniest. But this is the best accent you've got going, which is old-timey American PSA.
Oh, really? Well, I'll try not to overdo them. Maybe we'll do some more in the future.
This is a very long
cool.
episode.
Let's go. Bye, everyone. Do a
should-
speak pipe.
Yes, a SpeakPipe vaccine haiku to win a personalized video message. Let's end it by the two of us screaming, "Let's go!" And 3. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Let's go.
We can do that was horrible.
I'm stopping it.